Founding Fathers knew when they created this office of the President of the United States that they needed to put a check on that power. They were afraid, as we talked about earlier, of creating a tyrant of their own making. And so one of the ways they could put a check on the president was the possibility of removal. And so the Constitution provided that for high crimes and misdemeanors, the president could be removed. The way that process works is there is an indictment known as impeachment. So when you talk about impeachment of the President of the United States, just because a president is impeached does not mean he is removed from office, as we just saw with Donald Trump. So the indictment the impeachment is more like being indicted if you compare it to a criminal prosecution. An indictment is being formally accused of a crime. So when the president is impeached, he is, as it were, indicted. He is formally charged with an impeachable offense, or charged with a crime. So to impeach the president, you need a bare majority vote. That is done by the House of Representatives. To remove the president from the office, you've got to have at least a 2/3 vote, and that is done by the Senate. Here's this checks and balances. There's the whole process of impeachment and removal is a check and balance on the president, but then the process whereby that's done is a check and balance to secure that presidents are just not removed willy-nilly, because the House takes part of it from one perspective and the Senate takes part of it from another perspective. Okay, so let's do a couple little case studies here. So Richard Nixon was charged with a number of articles of impeachment. 3, in fact. So if you read here, Article 1 accused the president of obstruction of justice by using the powers of his high office to delay, impede, and obstruct the investigation of the break-in at the Democratic Party headquarters, known as the Watergate Complex. Specifically, the article charged that Nixon had made false statements for the purpose of deceiving the people of the United States into believing that a president's campaign organization had not been involved in this break-in. Article 2 of impeachment accused president of violating the constitutional right of citizens of the United States by misusing the FBI, CIA, and the Internal Revenue Service to harass his opponents. So if you're one of President Nixon's opponents, oftentimes you got audited by the IRS, which is no fun, and they can really tie you up. Article 3 charged that he had defied the Judiciary Committee by failing to produce subpoenaed tapes and documents. So these are the articles that the House Judiciary Committee is proposing to have the whole House vote on as to whether or not he should be impeached. Nixon knew that he was going to be impeached. The votes were there. Each political party, each president has contacts in the House and the Senate. They know what the votes are on important things. Nixon knew he was going to be impeached, and he knew also that he would be convicted in the Senate. Rather than go through that embarrassment, he decided to simply resign. Which, I'm not justifying what he did, but which was probably good for the nation to begin to heal the nation. So now the question becomes, if Nixon should have been impeached, and he should have been convicted in the Senate, and then once you're convicted in the Senate, then you're removed from office. So with Donald Trump, he was impeached in the House, but he was not convicted in the Senate. Therefore, he remains President of the United States. You can say that in most instances, an impeachment would weaken the power of the presidency. Donald Trump did something really interesting. He had an interesting perspective on this whole thing. He, at some point, said, you know what? I want to be impeached. The House is not giving me my just say in their impeachment proceedings. They're not letting me have witnesses. I want to be impeached. I want to be able to tell my side of the story. And so he turned the tables on them. Then when he was acquitted of the charges with the vote in the Senate, he's. I'm not saying he's come out stronger, but he certainly doesn't seem to be diminished. Where with other presidents, they seem to been they've been diminished. Bill Clinton, case in point. And then before we go on to Bill Clinton, then with this whole coronavirus thing coming quickly on the heels of that, that we've seemed to have forgotten the impeachment, and we've moved on to this crisis of the coronavirus. So much so have we forgotten the impeachment. We don't even talk much about the primary election and Joe Biden being Donald Trump's opponent. Joe Biden's just not getting any press. But that's just, whether that's just kind of the luck of the draw as to what's going on. All right, let's move on to Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton, going on with this case study in the presidency, Bill Clinton was charged with 4 articles of impeachment, 2 of which he was actually impeached on. So the first one that he was impeached on was he willfully provided perjurious, false, and misleading testimony to the grand jury. If you or I bear false witness to a grand jury, that is a crime. Why should it be any different for the President of the United States? The President of the United States is not supposed to be above the law. Article 3, he prevented, obstructed, and impeded the administration of justice. Very much, very similar to the charges against Richard Nixon. So I ask you this question: if Richard Nixon should have been impeached and convicted because of preventing, obstruction, and impeding the administration of justice by parity of reasoning, by the same logical reasoning, should Bill Clinton have been impeached? And the answer is, by parity of reasoning, by logic, the answer is yes. However, so on the test, if I ask you that question, the answer is yes, by parity of reasoning. However, I think this is ultimately what it came down to. The democratically controlled Senate at the time of Bill Clinton's impeachment was just not willing to convict Clinton for lying about having sexual relations with his intern Monica Lewinsky. They just were unwilling to do that. Now, did the Republicans? Now, at the time, it's just the reverse of what we had with Donald Trump. At the time of Bill Clinton's impeachment, it was the Republicans who controlled the House and the Democrats who controlled the Senate. So the Republicans went ahead and pushed through the impeachment. They knew that there was little chance that they were going to get a conviction from the Senate. So why'd they do it? You can ask the same question with the Democrats and Donald Trump in the House. Why'd they do it? They believed, I think both parties believed, that if they could impeach the president, it would weaken him and weaken his ability to get his policies through Congress. Now, Bill Clinton, he was in his second term, so there was no way he was going to get a third term, because the Constitution prevents a president from having 3 terms these days. So again, why did the Republicans do it to Bill Clinton? Why did they impeach him? It's that idea that they're trying to weaken him. Should impeachment be used as a weapon this way? No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I think in part what happened with Donald Trump was the Democrats wanted to pay back what happened with Clinton. And therein lies part of the problem for the Democrats. Democrats started talking about impeaching Donald Trump as soon as he won the election, before he was even inaugurated as president. And so when it became an easy argument for his attorneys to make in the Senate trial hearing that this whole thing was bogus, that they were after him from day one, even before day one. So hopefully, but somehow I doubt it, hopefully, now that we've got one on one side with the Democrats and one on one side with the Republicans, hopefully both the Democrats and the Republicans will realize you don't just want to willy-nilly go around impeaching presidents just for the sake of some political advantage. There it is. I hope that helps.